Why are so many people fascinated with English royalty? This is the Boomer Island Podcast. Welcome ashore, my friends. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on the wonderful Boomer Island. Hey-o, hope you're healthy and happy. And welcome ashore. I'm just curious today because it is an anniversary of a horrendous event. And I'm curious about the fascination with the English monarchy, the royal family, don't you know, darling? I mean, I get it. People like drama. People like drama, especially about famous and rich people. You know, you get those documentaries or those mini-series. They got the dirt, the scandals, the pomp and circumstance. You feel like you're getting a peek behind the curtain. But really, I don't get it. And just from the simple fact, I don't live under a rock. Here's my view of those royal people through the years as I've seen it, through hearsay, tabloid headlines at the grocery store, checkout line, and maybe a random headline on the internet that I somehow glanced at and gave a read. This is how I see the royal family. A little while back, the Queen died. She was old. She was there a long time. So Prince Charles, who nobody likes, became king. And I think that he's fighting cancer or something's going on, but I don't know what kind of cancer, if he's still fighting it. And then the Queen, his wife Camille, that nobody has ever liked, for no apparent reason, other than Charles and her always were in love and they had an affair, which is scandalous. But everybody's kind of like, what's going on, dude? You're married to Princess Diana, Charles. And then there's Diana, who got married to Charles years ago. They had two sons, William and Harry, which when I say it reminds me of the college, William and Mary. It's William and Mary, 27, Princeton, 19. And they became princes, not princesses. Prince William, Prince Harry. And since William is the oldest, he is next in line to be king after old Chuck kicks the bucket. Now, William married a lady named Kate Middleton, who I think she's having some kind of health problems of her own. And she has always been the epitome of the good royal wife. Then there's Prince Harry. Oh, Harry. He was always considered the cool dude of the royal family. More of, that everyman kind of persona. I think he went into the military and served, and he was one of the world's most eligible bachelors. Then he met this American lady. I think she was an actress, or at least she was trying to be one. Her name's Meghan Markle, and that upended the royal apple cart. And after scandalous behavior unfitting for the monarchy, and then there was allegations from Harry and Meghan that the royals were racist. They quit the royal thing, or at least they're trying, and moved to California, and I don't know what's going on there. But they do seem to get a lot of tabloid headlines more than any other royal, because I noticed that as I wait in line to pay for my groceries. Then there's that Prince Andrew dude who's a pervert. I think he's even a pedophile. He was caught photographed at Epstein Island, and I think they took away his title of prince or something, but he didn't go to jail, but they should hang him by his ball sack. And I don't know how close any of that is to the truth, and you know what? I don't care. But for whatever reason, people follow their lives. The royal family gets huge TV ratings. Ever heard of The Crown? Yeah, I've heard of it. I never watched it, but people get into it. I don't get it. Do we secretly want to be a king or a queen or a prince or a princess? Or maybe we just enjoy seeing how fucked up they are. It's kind of like a royal Jerry Springer show. Yeah, I never was interested. Still aren't. But as all of us boomers remember, back in 1981, no matter who you were, you could not avoid the royal wedding between Prince Charles and Princess Diana. It is estimated 750 million people watched that wedding. It's, at least some of it. I know I saw it. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just remember that long-ass train on her wedding gown. TVs, wherever you went, there was just like, there they are having their wedding. But 750 million people, to put that in perspective, that is over 10 times as many people who watched the Beatles' first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, come on, 10 times more than the Beatles? Just by being born into English royalty? I don't get it. And it was described as the wedding of the century. It was a fairy tale thing. Supposedly, the Prince Charming going after, it was like Cinderella. But Diana, after I researched, I thought she was kind of, from the wrong side of the tracks or whatever. But she was born into like semi-royalty or whatever. They lived right next door. So anyway, she wasn't all that, as far as a Cinderella, but that's how I always thought it was. And she was only 19. Well, they met when she was 16, got engaged when she was 19, and she was 20 when she got married, and Charles was 32. And it seemed like it was arranged, that royal arrangement thing. I think it was doomed from the beginning. It seemed to crumble immediately because they just weren't compatible. And Charles carried on an affair with old Camilla. And then the public found out. No one could understand that because she was not a looker at all compared to Diana. Diana, she was a world's babe. And so, that was the shallow, all too human reaction that we all had. And we kind of went through, I didn't. The world kind of went through her plight as she suffered from bulimia and sadness and postpartum, all this emotional distress during the early years of their marriage. And she later described being overwhelmed by the pressure of royal duties and just the constant scrutiny of the media. Also, she didn't feel supported by Charles or the royal family, so she got isolated, she felt lonely. And in a famous interview in 1995, she mentioned, there were 3 of us in this marriage, and she was referring to Charles' continued relationship with Camilla. Now, after their divorce, the public was still infatuated with Diana. Not me, though. I didn't get it. I knew she was popular, but I never realized that she was probably the most famous woman in the world. Good God, y'all. She was amazingly famous, and I guess the paparazzi just hounded her wherever she went. And then it happened almost 27 years ago to this day. That's why I'm having this podcast, because it's this week in Boomer history, people. But old Lady Diana, she died. Lady Di died. She's one of the most famous boomers of all time. She had the most famous car crash of all time. Let's go back to that faithful evening on the night of August 30th, 1997. Princess Diana dined at the Ritz Hotel in Paris with her boyfriend, Dadi Fayed. They were planning to leave for Dadi's apartment later that night. Hey now. So they left the hotel shortly after midnight in a Mercedes-Benz S280, driven by a dude named Henry Paul, who was the head of security at the Ritz. Along with Princess Diana and Dottie was bodyguard Trevor Reese Jones. To avoid the paparazzi waiting at the hotel entrance, they thought they'd pull a fast one and they used the back exit. However, photographers pursued them on motorcycles as they drove through the streets of Paris. At around 12:23 a.m., so now it's August 31st, 27 years ago, the car entered the Point, I'm going to mispronounce this, Pont de Lama Tunnel. Sorry, my French is not so good. and the car was speeding. It crashed into the 13th pillar of the tunnel. The crash was deadly. Dottie Fayed and Henry Paul were pronounced dead at the scene. Princess Diana's last words to a first responder were, "My God, what's happened?" And then she lost consciousness and was taken to the hospital where she underwent emergency surgery, and she was pronounced dead at 4 a.m. due to internal injuries. Trevor Rees-Jones was the only survivor, but suffered severe injuries. And at first, the whole world blamed the scumbag paparazzi. I mean, that's the narrative even to this day, because I don't really think about it, but I just kind of packed it away, and I thought, yeah, those son of a bitches just chased him, and they got a little crazy trying to outrun him, and that was the cause. But there was a lot of investigations afterwards, and it was revealed, unbeknownst to me, that the driver, Henry Paul, the dude was under the influence of alcohol and prescription drugs. I mean, what the hell is that? Why is he driving? And that impaired his ability to drive, and he was the one at fault. I mean, nobody wanted to blame anybody in the car, but that was, in fact, what happened. And even though several paparazzi, they were arrested with manslaughter and failure to assist persons in danger charges, all that got dropped. And then came the funeral. Good God, the funeral. 2.5 billion people watched. Does that even seem possible? 2.5 billion people. And we got to realize back then, not everybody had a screen in their pocket. You had to go to a viewing device like a television. Anyway, that's incredible. I didn't get it. I know a lot of you remember where you were when you heard the news. You remember exactly where you were, like when certain people die. I don't. I just remember the massive outpouring of grief, there's grief and sadness. And, I was too young way back to remember assassinations of the 60s. You had JFK, then Martin Luther King, then Robert Kennedy. So the only time I ever experienced worldwide mourning of this kind of scale was when John Lennon was killed. And you know what? I got that. I was a huge Beatles and Lennon fan. And he created music that lasts a lifetime for me. It touches my soul. I still don't understand the world's reaction to Lady Di. I mean, what am I missing? Was it because of her celebrity and she died way before her time? I mean, that happens. That happens to famous people who die early, but it never has this kind of effect. Was it her humanitarian causes? I remember going to Africa. She was hugging those kids with AIDS at the height of our fear of the disease. We were all terrified, and she was really courageous for that. She gave awareness to the landmine problem, which I never knew was a problem because I live in this bubble of the United States, but I guess they're buried all around the world, killing and maiming people. And I'm not sure how all that stuff works, but isn't that what the royal family does? They do a lot of philanthropy work. So maybe there was such an outpouring of love and grief because she was just so totally human to the world, showing us all her flaws, her compassion, her fearlessness to the monarchy. Something relatable, but 2.5 billion. So she must have affected, many different people in many different ways. Whatever it was, she had it. So I know this is kind of a downer, but it is a huge moment for us boomers in boomer history, and it was 27 years ago. The human race, we lost a beautiful soul, folks. A fellow boomer. And the world mourned. But I just didn't understand, and I still don't understand the magnitude that her death had on the planet. All right, then. Am I dense or what's up there? Anyway, the song of the day is by Elton John and Bernie Taupin called Candle in the Wind, which is originally a sad, beautiful song about Marilyn Monroe. And then Taupin, who always wrote the lyrics for Elton John, who obviously was the performer and the musician,